just that little bit of fuzzy in there. You just don't want to leave that. You want everything to be nice and clean. Nice clean cuts. It makes a nice carving. That one there, easier to get with this guy here. Too much wood there. That cheek. Fuzzies there, let's get rid of them. Okay. Now we can texture out the furry parts and his hat and beard and coat. This is just a little gouge I use for that. Kind of make short, deep strokes. Get that nice rough texture. He has a fur edge on his hat. Kind of the tedious part. Don't want to tear anything out, or you gotta kind of be careful how you do it. It's kind of nice because even if you just do a natural finish on the carving, you don't paint it, it gives you the different surfaces to kind of denote different areas on the carving. I've done a lot of carvings over the years that were just natural finished. So you kind of learn texture means a lot. A lot of the really nice relief panels from the Renaissance period were just natural finished, and so all they had was good geometry and textures on those to make them work. Here, by kind of bringing that texture, that beard around, you can kind of give it more shape than it even has. You have to be careful with that tool when you're down against your other surfaces. You don't gouge into some place you don't want that texture on.
Or else you'll be texturing the whole thing.
Yeah, or fixing it, going back, smoothing it back out. It's just kind of all neat little touches you can add to a carving and make it a lot nicer than it was going to be if you just left it plain. And I've done them both ways, but this adds a nice look to your carving for not all that much time. Take the time to got to watch because you got a grain change right here. You're running into it and running out of it. That's why it's going to want to hook you, pull you in, make you do something stupid. And that's the thing you got to watch. If you ever feel that grain get a hold of your chisel, you just want to quit what you're doing and figure out a way to go where you're trying to go in a different direction, typically the opposite direction, so you don't tear it out. It's easier to not make a mistake than it is to fix a mistake.
Some good life advice right there.
In many things. No point making the situation worse than it is. And I've done it, and I've seen carvings where guys have done it where you had like a really cool carving to do, you wanted to do, but you had a bad cross grain situation in it that you knew was going to be fragile. So take the carving, get it halfway close to finish, break it, go in, put a rod in there so it's strong enough, and then put it back together and then finish carving it, you know. And sometimes you have to make adjustments like that to get the finished product you wanted, but typically you can design yourself around those things. There was a series of carvings many years ago at the Goshen College I went up to see, and from a summer's, what's that story? Midsummer Night's Dream. There you go. And a guy had carved almost all those characters, and a lot of those characters were like fairies, you know, really thin. And he had done that. He'd went in and inserted metal rods in those arms and things to hold those carvings. It was really impressive body of work. I mean, they were, you know, in that size range and really well done. And I imagine he'd spent years doing that series of carvings. They were really nice. I applaud people that take on those projects like that. And I've done some birds and things that are pretty wild, but you got to have your head in the right place to jump into something like that. And
it takes a lot of planning.
Yeah, it does take a lot of planning. You know you're going to spend, you know, 100, 200 hours on a carving. You're never going to be rewarded for that other than the satisfaction of accomplishing your vision, but still, it's cool to stretch your skill set and things out and do some things that get you out of the comfort zone, and you learn a lot. I want to get back. I haven't done any multi-piece Christmas carvings for a long time. I want to get back and do some of those where you got stuff a little more complicated than just these simple little guys. These are fun and fast and affordable for people that want a carving. A lot of people like handmade things at Christmas time, and I've carved for years. My carvings are kind of one of my things people know me for as an artist in the area. I've carved a long time. Okay, so now we're down to needing a nose. So decide where we want it to go. Little piece there to get off. And I just take my awl, get me a nice starter hole going. Get my high-tech drill out.
Is that Milwaukee or Bosch?
I think that's a Bosch, I'm not sure. Miller Falls actually is what it is. Or Goodell and Pratt, I'm not sure which, but there we go. Sign it on the bottom and do that bottom edge, clean that up a little bit here. I just like to go around that because you'll always have a little edge there. Just take that under a little farther. It makes him look nicer when he's sitting on a shelf. Put my little mark on him. There we go.
How do you do his nose?
No, that's pretty high tech. Kind of the secret of the whole thing. I have a piece here that I've kind of worked down. Just a piece of actually cut off of when I'm cutting these guys out, and it's just another piece of basswood because you want that grain going with them. So what I do is I get a little piece of basswood and then I split pieces out of it. Just take my knife and split them out. So I know I've got grain running right good through them, just like you're making a Windsor chair. You want that grain going through your chair parts. Same concept. This is the last, get these fairly long and I'll make 3 or 4 noses out of a stick. The last nose is kind of tricky. You don't have much to hang on to.
Start shaving off your fingers.
Yeah. We all know that every snowman has a carrot for a nose or a stick. I don't want ours to be any different. And I just taper that other end a little bit the other way. It sticks in. There we go.
Beautiful.
847. That's the 3rd one today.
Oh my God.